A test case challenging the legality of Australia's role with the Nauru immigration detention centres being argued before the High Court today. The hearing before the full bench will focus on a pregnant Bangladeshi asylum seeker brought to Australia from Nauru because of serious health complications. Live now to Sky News political reporter David Lipson. David, this of course is all happening despite that announcement we saw on Monday from the Nauruan government.
Yeah, that's right, Aaron. As you mentioned, the case being run on behalf of that Bangladeshi woman who was brought to Australia in the late stages of her pregnancy because of serious health complications. She ended up having the baby and the baby's okay. Now, 10 months on, she fears, and the lawyers acting on her behalf fear, that her return to Nauru is imminent. And they claim, the lawyers that is, that the government's program to send people offshore and indeed to detain them in Pacific nations is unconstitutional. We heard earlier from Daniel Webb from the Human Rights Resource Legal Centre. Here's what he had to say.
We know that the Australian government has some powers to detain people in Australia. We know that the Australian government has some powers to remove people from Australia. But it's quite an extraordinary thing, and another thing altogether, to then fund and control the detention of those innocent people in the territories of other countries. And it's that detention and that spending that this case challenges.
There are two things that may weaken the case for the refugees and asylum seekers. You mentioned one of them. Just 2 days ago, Nauru announced that there would be open access for asylum seekers there. That means that they'd be able to move around the island uninhibited, and that is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That will be the subject of much discussion here at the High Court over the next few days. But also, back in June, the government worked with the opposition to actually bring in some legislation that closes loopholes relating to offshore detention and offshore processing of asylum seekers. Both of those matters may have some bearing, some impact on the case, but the refugee lawyers insist that there are still some major constitutional questions that need to be answered. And if they get up, it won't just be the Bangladeshi woman's case that's successful. There are 200 other asylum seekers who've been brought to Australia for various health reasons. That would trigger the same response, the same result for them. And indeed, if this case was successful, the government's very detention and processing of asylum seekers offshore would be in serious doubt, Aaron.
David Lipson at the High Court. Talk again soon. Thank you.